So now it's recording. Hi,
So
Mike.
Leela, can you also
And
record?
hi, Irene. And Jana.
Oh, Leela, you're muted again.
I said, it looks like I'm recording, but we'll know at the end of the 2 hours, I guess.
Amazing. Worst comes to worst, we'll just WeTransfer.
Okay.
Thank you. So much trial and error with this stuff.
I think we're going to start and wait until see if more people are coming. I would like for us to, first of all, I want to say thank you and welcome. Really good to see all of you. And I would like for us to center ourselves a bit before we start. Do I sit there? So okay.
Yeah, there you go.
How fun you.
It's okay. That was good.
Okay, close your eyes. Make a deep breath in. And exhale. And feel how the body is falling into gravity. Inhale and exhale. And for every exhalation you make, feel how you get more and more heavy. Such a good way to center ourselves and get awareness into the body and feeling through the senses what is happening. So inhale again deeply and exhale. I would like for you to focus on your feet. Feel free to wiggle your toes so you know where your feet are. And feel how the toes and the feet feels. So it's that part of the senses right now that is feeling. Move your attention up to your knees. You can put a hand on your knees if you want to. And feel partly through your hands how the knee feels. But also bring focus to how the knee feels the hand on the knees. It's two different types of feeling. And leave your hands on your knees. Bring focus to your hips and your bum in the seat. Feel how it feels with your bum in the seat. And if you really zoom in on that sensation, you also feel how difficult it is to discern what is bum and what is seat. It's difficult to feel where the bum ends and the seat start. Now I want you to do a Kegel, so you feel the tension in the pelvic floor. And with an inhalation, you kind of pull your awareness up through the spine to the base of your head. And exhale, and let go of the Kegel. And now bring a full attention to everything in the front of the body. In the back of your body. To the right side of the body. And the left side of the body. And up above you and below you. So you have this visual image of sitting in that 6-dimensional bubble. Now I would like for you to notice how much you sense with your senses, which is hearing and tasting and smelling and feeling And seeing, even though you have your eyes closed, you probably see darkness or white spots, or you see images. Our seeing is not only the visual impression, it's also everything we see in pictures. Just like the hearing is not only the sounds, it's also the voice we hear in the head. And the last of the senses that we talk about when we do theta work is thought. And I would like for you to, after today, really, really notice how much is an actually sense impression and how much is thought. So for example, if we go back to the feeling sensation in your knees, your hands are resting on your knees. If you notice how much is actual sense experience, either from your hands or from your knees, and how much is your thought discerning, this is my hands feeling, or this is my knees feeling. There's a difference. Can you actually feel with your hands without thinking, this is my hands feeling? And can you actually feel in your knees without thinking, this is my knees feeling? If you detach thought, is it anything but just sensation floating in space? It's the thought that is making the knees into being your knees, and your hands being your hands. And the same with hearing. You might be hearing sounds in the room. You're hearing my voice. If you detach the thought of this voice being my voice, where do you actually hear a voice? Is it outside of your ears? Or is it your brain that is picking up on sound? So is it really Pernilla's voice? Or is it your brain that is picking up on something that you then put a label on and say it's outside of you? Is it? And the same with you seeing, even though you're sitting with your eyes closed. You might have flickering images, you might have colors, different patterns. But with your eyes closed, where's that seeing actually taking place? If you detach the thought of what you're seeing, what is actually happening? And it's why we talk about the thoughts being an extra sense. because it puts an extra layer on a real sensory experience. So you have the seeing and hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. That is one part of your senses. And then you have the thoughts that are putting an extra layer on the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. And what we're trying to do with the feather work is to teach you how to discern what is actually really happening with your sensory experiences and what you think is happening. And there's a huge difference in what is happening, which is reality, and what you think is happening, which is fantasy. And especially when we start to work with the fifth feather, that is really, really important to become aware of. So just sit a moment and feel into your body and notice what is actually happening in your sensory field and what is a thought overlay. Okay, make a deep inhalation and exhale. Get ready to open your eyes shortly and be present in the meeting. Make another inhalation. Exhale, open your eyes, shake your body if you need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And welcome to Nicole and Debbie and Jahira. And Sarah is back. That's good. I just want to say that I was reminded by Leela. She is our angel in the sky, making sure that everything is running smoothly. That I just want to ask you to how is it I'm saying that?
well, that we're recording everything and it's going to be up on YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you have something that you don't want to be recorded before you bring it up, just let us know and we'll pause the recording. Otherwise, there's a good chance that if it's up there, if it's left public in this, that we might use excerpts of it that other people might find helpful, and it will become its own little public YouTube clip. So if you think that you don't want that to happen, then either let us know ahead of time, or like if we get talking about something and something else comes out that you weren't expecting, just put like a little private message in the chat or in the, in our chat thing, and just say, I'd like not to have that used as a, it's an individual clip or something, and then we'll respect your wishes on that.
It's because I've experienced so many times that people are, not everybody's watching the full recording, because when we do the Q&A and when we do the inquiry, it's often 2-3 hours, and not everybody's watching that. So it's very useful to make it into bite size. It's also what I'm doing with the lessons, that I have the bite size of all the lessons. So we also want to do that here with the Q&A, so people are not missing out. And you guys are saying so many great things that I really would like to use as bite size. And it's Leela who's helping us with making all that possible. So she's our
I also wanted to mention there's another option. It's not all or none. If you want to hide your face, or if you want to hide your voice, we can do that. If something really useful happens for a lot of people, we can camouflage you. And so if you're not totally against being seen or heard in a different octave range, or in a different sort of either blacked face or pixelated or another person's face, let us know.
Yeah, thank you for that.
We have lots of people's faces that we can put on you.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and today in our QA is so magnificent. Normally Todd, he has a group on Friday, so he's never part of the Q&A, but today you are, because
Yeah, we because today's the day after Thanksgiving, and since not everybody could make it for the group anyway, we decided we would take the day off of it. And since Pernilla was still continuing with hers, I get to join. So thank you for having me.
And it's you know, the Q&A is very much centered about the awakening curriculum and all the questions you have there. And Todd, he's working differently, very much like I'm working with it, but you also have some different insights to it. So it's just a treat.
Thanks.
So yeah, Irene, let me just pin you.
So I just was wondering if we're ready to start sharing.
Absolutely.
Great. Ooh. First of all, thank you for being here, especially today. There's been so much emotion arising since I started the Fetters. I almost feel as if I'm seeing my whole life from a perspective that I'd never seen it from, like all the patterns and darknesses. Even though I'd seen some of it, it just has been hitting me like, who is this person? It's like, and so I shared a couple of sessions ago that I had sent an apology to my brother, and I didn't have my camera on, and there was some confusion around that. It was a straight apology. It was just an I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I had expressed a lot of anger and directed it toward him. And you reminded me that whatever response I got, to remember that it was his, that he was talking about himself.
Yeah.
So it was interesting the way the response came back, in that I was in my car and I was at a stoplight, and I looked at my phone and I saw that there was an email coming in from him, but it hadn't downloaded, and I immediately put my phone down and I went, okay, there's an email from him. And then at the next stoplight, I read the first line. And the first line was something along the, thank you for your email. And then I just put it down. I went, okay, there's one line. The next line was, you have shown great kindness to me at times during our life.
Yeah.
Put it down. And then he said, this is very hard for me to say. This is painful for me to say. And he said, over the course of a lifetime, I never know when you're going to turn on me. I think it's happened twice in our lives, actually. Once when I was like 9 years old, and then this last time. I'm not someone who frequently dumps anger. So it was surprising. And he said, this isn't our first rodeo now, is it?
Mm.
And when I read that part, I just involuntarily contracted.
Yeah.
I felt kind of like my heart had been pierced. But what flowed out felt like just this profound compassion for myself, for him, for the circumstance, for the family trauma, just all of it, just compassion. Then I started seeing some things about the relationship. He's my older brother, and he's older by 1.5 years. And I started seeing a lot of the ways that I had connected with him in childhood. Like he was my safety sometimes, and sometimes he was my tormentor too. All of those things. And in that process, what I've been seeing is kind of all the people that I've left behind. It's like I'm really connecting with this part of myself that I have rejected. And so it's kind of showing up externally. So when I finished reading his email, I was pulling into a car wash. And all of this compassion was flowing. And I pulled into this car wash. And my license plate says, "Love yourself." And there was the guy was looking at my license plate and looking at the credit card and just kind of trying to figure things out. And I said, "Did you figure it out?" And he said, "No, what does it say?" I said, "Love yourself." And then he went, "Oh." And I said, "All of yourself." And he went, "Oh, thank you. Thank you." And it was like the light had just struck him. It was like he was like dancing and thank you. It was like he was really getting love yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, it was all of myself, even that part, just every part. And so every part has been stepping forward since then to be loved and to be seen. And it's sometimes so hard. I was in the kitchen. And I start to feel this kind of enclosed feeling, like being trapped. And I just want to push everyone and everything away. I just want to go and just hide. This is a pattern of withdrawal that shows up for me. And my husband was there for me in such a big way, where I would normally cut myself and shut myself away. He really reached out, and I felt like it almost felt like Michelangelo's with the hands connecting, like it was so profound for me, just the touch of a hand in that moment of feeling so incredibly alone and cut off. And so I'm starting Angelo DeLullo's 7-day silent retreat on Sunday, and it feels like this whole massive structure of the self is it just feels like a whole armor that just wants to drop away, or at least I'm hoping. I think it's a thought that I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share that.
It's so wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so, so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. I have multiple things I want to say. The first thing I want to say is just every time that we have that, what you explained about, you talked about being in the kitchen and you felt that withdrawing and you just wanted, to withdraw from everything. When we get feelings like that, it's only a diversion. There's something inside that feels so, so vulnerable. And when we experienced it the first time, way, way back, we didn't have the words to describe it. We didn't have the emotional maturity to experience it. And we didn't have, the psychological maturity to experience it. So we shut down, we diverted, either with, like you say, and how you experience it, with shutting down or withdrawing, or we diverted with anger. So we started to throw things at people, or we diverted with anything, ice cream, alcohol, whatever. So where you are at when you realized in the kitchen that you felt that withdrawing, and then your husband really saw you, and you were brave enough not to push him away like you normally would have done, but just staying with it, staying with it, staying with it. And then you had that feeling of, you know, Michelangelo touching God, that is that feeling of, oh my goodness, this was what I needed all along. All along when I pushed people away and when I pushed my family away, all along when I did that, it was just a diversion because of this vulnerability that I was not mature enough to experience. Now I am. And that is when everything just falls into place and you start to live. It's also what we talk a lot about with the fetters, really live it. It's not something that you just do in the cushion or you just do when you are in your sangha, you just do, you know, in meditation. It's something you really live all the time. And that is when it starts to have that ripple effect that you experienced when the whole thing you talked about with your brother and the email and the contraction and the relaxing and the seeing him as a human being that is just reacting out of, you know, as a survival mechanism, just like everyone are. And just having that compassion for that, pulling into the gas station, and by that, embracing the compassion for your brother and for yourself, for the family trauma, for everything, you just radiated your license plate to the guy, you know. It just, and it's so, so beautiful. It's exactly how it is, that when we allow ourselves all the things we do not want, and instead of diverting with anger or anything 4-5 fetish, you know, all the things we want, so we divert, all the things we don't want, where we divert, but we just stay with it, just stay with it. It is beautiful, the ripple effect that it takes. It's so, so beautiful. And I'm so utterly grateful for you sharing it with us, and how amazing you're going on Angelo's retreat. Really, really amazing. I mean, having 7 days of silence where you can just allow yourself to sit with that vulnerability and allowing it to be there. And I just want to, obviously, you know it because you said it just before, that there's nothing that needs to go away, you know. It's utterly all of Irene. That's just wonderful. You know, every part of you is allowed to be there. You, like you said to the guy at the gas station, you know, love all of you, everything about yourself, love all of it. Yeah. So for you to go on a silent retreat and really exploring being in that space where everything that comes up, it's okay. It's either something that is super vulnerable that you can be with, or it's so vulnerable that you can't, so you're diverting, then you're just staying with the diversion and loving the diversion as well. I mean, what a great timing. What a great timing.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so grateful for the fetters and for the way that you both have allowed me to deepen and to become aware.
It's beautiful.
So much. It's just such a gift. And it's one of the hardest things that I've done. And I've done a lot of things, but this has been really a challenge. And it just feels like it opened up a doorway that I hadn't been through in a big way, in a very big way. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's the part that obviously, as a therapist, I've done lots of therapy, obviously, but I also really, and I see the use of it, I really do. But at some point, it's so cerebral, and we're just thinking up scenarios and thinking up new stories that we then feel into the story, but it's still about the story. It's different with the theta work, is that it goes into how it feels in the body. And there's no attachment to any story. Every time a story come up, you detach the story and just stay with the body. And it just allows the body to express what it needs to express without being interrupted by a story. And
it seems so simple. It seems so simple, but in the process, I've seen just how conditioned I am to not go to the body.
Yeah.
And it's been startlingly, I mean, it's startling how much I don't go to the body and stay in the story in the past up till now.
It's beautiful.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Amazing.
Do you have anything you want to add?
I had a small question, but I feel like it could just go down a deeper road. So I don't know if it's really.
Even your inquiries.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know. I should maybe.
No, go on, go on, go
Well,
on.
no, just a small question that I had, which again may or may not go into anything else. Is, I mean, you had brought up in his letter where he had said that we've been, this isn't our first rodeo, and you felt that thing from that. I was wondering, what did you actually make of that? His comment.
It's a good point.
What I made of it is that my brother is someone who is very challenged in the arena of letting things go. And so he will consistently remind me of or bring up when something that happened 50 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were 20. I'm 70 now. It's like, when, and he's still like, oh, you remember that time when you, and he's holding on to it. And so when he said that, it was like, oh, let it, there's just now, let the rodeo go, let the past go. Just, there was just that. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I was wondering, because you said you had like 2 times that you remember in the past 70 years that
Right.
you've had an explosion towards him of some sort, or let something out. But he is obviously, in his mind, there have been multiple instances where he doesn't know how to trust you, because he doesn't know what to expect from you, because in his mind he's seeing that. So
Yes.
my question was, one, what did you make of that? Did you feel like you were forgetting instances, or do you feel like he's interpreting things over the course of these years differently than you've experienced them? So even though you've had instances where you haven't felt like you've done anything that would be, letting something out, or doing something that he would take to be that way, that obviously it sounds like from his perspective that he has. And so
Yes.
his reality is obviously going to be different than your reality of it. And so I wondered what your take of that was, whether that pain was because you realize that he is seeing a lifetime with you that's different from how you have experienced your lifetime with him.
That's so interesting. When I'm looking here, what's coming up is that it feels what arises is some frustration, and it's like right here in my chest. And it's that then there's the thought that he doesn't see me as I am. He sees me as I was, like still like long ago, like there's some way he's relating and he won't let it go. And so I'm constantly faced with his image. This is the whole kind of gestalt of it, that I'm faced with the image that he has that isn't necessarily in the now.
Yeah, that's really good, because that's the thing, is it's that recognition that nobody ever sees us the way that we see ourselves, or see our, we always think that our relationship is one way, and the other person may have similar but still going to be different views on how every exchange has ever been, and what they remember from all of those exchanges. And all of that goes into, again, as you said, seeing a person not as they are in this moment, but with all of the past history label that they've accumulated stuck over this person. And that's only the things that they happen to have remembered. So if they haven't remembered all of the great, generous, loving things that you've done, those labels are not the ones that are being first attached to you when he sees your picture, or he sees a letter coming from you. It's all the things that have made themselves the most prevalent in his memory, which,
and the same, I see very clearly, the same is obviously is true right here.
yeah,
Totally. Oh yeah, totally.
yeah.
Yeah, but also bringing, what you doing?
No, go. Go ahead.
Yeah, but also bringing the focus into that, just like just like when we have a diversion happening because something is really, really painful and we can't look at it. And then we have a diversion in a direction going to somewhere. When we detach the thought and we're just with the experience of what happened, you know now that is kind of like locked in time. That if you were 7 when your school teacher said something to you that made you feel so shameful, the shame is locked into time in that period, and it is that period that we need to stay with the 7-year-old. That's what we do in the 7th fetter, where we go back in time to the 7-year-old and stay with that 7-year-old as the adult that we are today, so we can allow the body to heal the trauma that happened at that point.
Yes.
Brother is no different. So you have said something to him or done something to him that you might have, like Todd was pointing out, you might have forgotten completely. But his 9-year-old is so wounded.
Yeah.
He can't let go of it, and he's not supposed to let go of it. It needs space and it needs love for the 9-year-old. So for you seem, trivial and come on, let go of the bloody rodeo. But he can't, because he has a 9-year-old crying, and that 9-year-old needs compassion and love and space. And that's why he keeps bringing it up, because it has not received what it needs, and he cannot let go of it until it has received what it needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And only he can give it to himself.
He's the only one who can give it, because it's not about you at all.
Right.
Of all the things you have said to him over 70 years, there are few ones that he remembers. And that's his mind that has selected those, because there's something in that he needs to work with.
Gosh.
And that we can only have compassion for.
Absolutely. But when I just grok all of this, it's just so kind of like, I don't know how to put it into words, that it's like shatters what you think, how life is happening.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely
It
does.
just shatters whatever. I mean, when you see the reality of that, it's just, I keep saying the word startling because it's startling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is.
We've been living through a false narrative, and we've been living with an assumption that other people are also living with our same false narrative. And then you're starting to realize that not only do other people not share your delusion, but that what you've taken to be truth has also just been delusional.
It's, oh gosh, it's just wild.
Yeah. Absolutely is. Yeah.
So where does one go with this?
Well, this is why people find it destabilizing too in some cases, because there's nothing to really hold on to in that way. There's living with the humility of recognizing that everything that you see is not really the truth, and you can live in a world where ultimately you have to be okay with knowing that you don't know anything, and that your experience is completely biased. But it's okay.
Oh, this is such a relief.
It is.
Such a relief, because I think that I have the thought that I really live as if I don't know, but this takes me to a whole nother level of I don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A whole nother level
Yes.
of I don't know, and there is no knowing.
No.
Exactly.
Nobody can know because of this.
Yes. Exactly. You got it.
Well,
Exactly. High five from here.
Oh my gosh. What would life be like really in that not knowing and really seeing clearly? I feel like there's a little bit of fear that comes up that goes, wait, you're going to forget this. You're going to forget this. Don't forget this.
Yeah.
Of that there is no way to know, because everybody is doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Their own mind construct, right?
Yeah.
The whole construct.
Yeah. Exactly.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Wow. Well, now that leaves a lot of space for even more destabilization during the retreat, because I think I'm really seeking the total destabilization of this construct.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to, I'm going to talk about the wheel.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. we have talked a lot about how we can help people, because we work with the feathers, and as you know, we talk about feather 1, feather 2, feather 3, and so on, and at the same time we keep saying that it's not linear, but we call the numbers that start with 1 and end with 10, and also with the curriculum that I'm working with, I'm working through the numbers, and at the same time we're talking about it's not linear, it's not linear, it's not linear. So we have actually come up with a new way of talking about the feathers, and we're going to make a sofa sit and talk about it. And it's where, instead of having the linear approach to the feathers, we call it the wheel of identification, where you have all the feathers, all 10 feathers at the same time. And it's more about becoming aware of what you just realized, that there is identification happening all the time, but it is in one of the 10 slices of the pie. So it's like a pie chart. Would be easier if I had the picture to explain it. But it's basically that seeing that there are 10 different ways that we can identify, and there are 10 different ways that we can dissolve the identification, and that can happen all the time. So it's not that you can only, see through the third one if you have done the first and the second. It's not how it is. And you can only work with the fifth, about aversion and ill will, if you have done the other ones. It's not how it is. For some people, the 10th feather of not knowing happens before the 5th feather of ill will and aversion is completely dropped. And to accommodate that and to help working with it, we're going to start to talk about the wheel of identification instead of talking about the feathers linearly. So when you go to the retreat, be open to any kind of identification that you spot, and then coming back to the 10th feather that you just realized that you do not know. You do not know. And that is with you all the time. In everything that you question, and everything you get a doubt about, everything you, if your brother writes you again, if something is said during the retreat or anything, and you have that contraction in your body right away, get back to the slice of the 10th feather that is just like, you do not know.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Yes. Wow. Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Huge opening. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to hearing what is happening during the retreat next time I see you.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you.
Enjoy. Good seeing you.
And then it's Sunny. Just add pin. Here we go. Hello, my friend.
Hi. I would like to ask something about the diversions.
Yeah.
Because I think that diversions is happening all over my life. That in one of your videos you say when we have these diversions, it's because there's something underlying that we do not want to address. But is it too much to say that everything in life is a diversion? I mean, to fill up your life with a lot of work, or to fill up your life with a lot of desire to lose weight or have longer hair or anything. But do you need to eliminate all diversions and stimulants like coffee and sugar and I know that there's not a recipe, and I know that there's not a recipe that my ego can attach to and say, well, if you just do like this, it will be okay. But yeah, I feel like I have troubles of letting go of these diversions, and I'm sure that I actually create or focus on a lot of issues in my life and call them problems because there's something I don't want to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to go from there.
I love your question. I love your question. And it's so clearly seen that, oh my goodness, extra work, caffeine, wanting a different body, all of that. Yes, it is diversions. And it's not, we're not saying that that the focus is to get rid of all diversions. Is what I'm really trying to emphasize in the third fetter about habits. It's not so much about getting rid of all the diversions. It's about looking into the attachment to the diversion, because it's not, the diversion is not a problem. Caffeine is not a problem.
You can still work, you can still eat sugar, you can still, you know, change your hairstyle or whatever, and it has nothing to do with that.
It's about the attachment to it.
It's and what that is, that what the function of that diversion is, because the diversion is functioning from, you know, working more is keeping you from looking at something that you don't want to look at. So after that thing has been seen and met, then you can still go about working, but you're going to have a very different relationship to that working, and it's not going to be a diversion any longer. It's just going to be working. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's perfect. You go on.
Sorry.
Go on. Go on.
No,
It's exactly what I would say. What he said.
But yeah, but something like, let's I think it has been an issue for many things, and I have been living with this my entire life, feeling that I should lose weight. There's something there that I'm detaching from, and is it because I simply, should I look into that there's some part of me that says I will never be good enough, and because I think that might be the issue, that I cannot never ever be good enough, because I think that early in my life there was an alcoholic mother that I couldn't change, but maybe I could do something so that I could be good enough so that she would stop drinking. And I know with my head now that is not possible, but I think that maybe it has been focusing on saying I can never be good enough, and there must be some reason for her not to stop drinking, and apparently I should try and do something better, and I couldn't. And then later in life it has become like this obsession about doing everything finish things all the time, and constantly trying to reach this level of perfection. But I mean, that is a wheel as well, because it will never be good enough. And is it just to sit with this now and embrace this feeling and say,
yeah, or maybe it's not, or maybe that is not the issue. You know, when you were a child, you didn't have the maturity, partly physiologically in your brain. You didn't have the psychological maturity. You didn't have, insight. You didn't have any of that because you were a child. And the conclusions we make as a child, it's always self-centered. It's always, if I am different, mom and dad will be happy. If I make them laugh, they're not arguing. If I am a good girl, mom won't. And we put, because our survival depends on there being a parent. I mean, we're not like a giraffe just that is, born and then we just can walk off in the savannah. We're so dependent on a parental guidance. And most of us haven't had that. And in not having that, we have made conclusions with a child brain and a child psychology that even as adults still is running our lives. But when you really, really look into it, you know that your mom would be drinking no matter how you were as a child. She was drinking before you were even born. She was an alcoholic. When she was a child, her pattern was probably, obsessive compulsive in other ways, just like an addict mind is. Then it's just other things. It wasn't alcohol when she was a child. So it's way, way before you were even considered, to be conceived. Mom was an addict. So,
but that is inherited as well. Yeah. Because I have inherited that pattern.
Yes.
My addictions are just others than her.
Exactly.
They are.
Exactly. And just like you overworking and you being obsessive with your body and you being obsessive with things being in a certain way, has nothing to do with your daughter. You know, no
Mm.
matter how your daughter is in her life, that doesn't make you work more or be more or less focused on your body or anything. Just like she has nothing to do with your obsessions. You had nothing to do with your mom's obsessions. So you making that conclusion as a child was only because you were self-referential, which we are as children. You thought everything was about you. And we have to think like that as children. Otherwise we won't survive. Literally, we won't survive.
So how is the road from where I am now?
You have made a conclusion about you not being okay. And that is the starting point. And it's a false starting point. How can you, if this moment is exactly like it's supposed to be? Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, I do. And
So
it cannot be different. It is
in a different,
as it is.
exactly. And nothing can be added or subtracted because the moment is already gone. There's a new moment here now that still nothing can be added or subtracted. It is as it is. And that moment is now again already gone when we talk about it. So you thinking that you need to be any different for you to be okay, or this moment to be okay with you in it, it's a complete delusion. So your starting point is off.
Yeah. But
There needs to be a formulation that is not about you being okay or you not being okay. It's why in the first letter I posed the question, who am I? To really, really look into the delusion that we have that there is an I that can be anything.
But when we sit and center in the beginning, I have this feeling that it is just the body, that it is just because I think that I have feet, and I can't feel them when I'm not moving them, but I can walk on them a little bit later. Is that what you mean with the am I, or who am I? Because I do identify as a woman close to 50, having grown-up children, working. So there is also a lot of identification with the physical me. Yeah.
In the in the first feather in the curriculum, the question is, who am I? Where you look into that. In the 8th feather, which is the antagonist to the first, the question is, am I? Really looking into the assumption that we are. But I'm wondering if you want to do an inquiry about it. I know this is not the inquiry group.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, but I was feeling like there's something else there, and I was trying to figure into or feel into what it is that isn't quite clicking. So on the one hand, I wanted to say I applaud your insight at recognizing that you have these different diversions, that so many things in your life are these diversions, and then also the recognition that none of them actually have anything to do with the thing that you're diverting from. Right? So if you're trying to lose weight, you already know that losing weight is not going to affect your internal sense of not being worthy enough, or whatever that, if that's, your starting point. Otherwise, you would just be blindly going into it and doing it and not recognizing that you were doing it for a purpose. And the fact that if you're overworking yourself, that's a diversion from this thing, you already recognize that it has nothing to do with working. or whether you're overworking or underworking or eating too much or too little, or whatever the patterns are, just like any addictions that you have had, it has nothing to do with the actual substance that you're addicted to. What it all has to do with is the drive to divert from something else. And so you've already recognized that the thing that needs to be gotten in touch with is the thing that is what you have been running from. And so if it's that feeling of not being worthy, then you can sit with that and be with that. And that alone is enough to undercut all of these other things that you're doing, and the attachment to all of these other things that you're doing, whether or not you continue doing them again, completely besides the point. Some of them might naturally fall away if you're doing them just for a purpose and recognize that that has no purpose and you don't want to do them. Some of the things you might find you actually just enjoy doing, and they'll continue going on even without that sort of negative purpose attached to it. But I know, as you said, it's not really an inquiry group to go into like the body identification, but I am curious. So during the opening meditation, when you recognize that there's no feeling of body unless there's a thought about the body attached to it, you then made the assumption, or the sort of logical jump, that, okay, but if I stand up, I can walk on these feet. So there are feet there. But in your actual experience of it in that moment, you didn't experience walking and you didn't experience feet. You just experienced sensation. So we kind of live in two different worlds. We live in the world of direct experience, where we recognize that all the things that we believe are true are not actually true, and that all you have are basically, everything can be boiled down to 5 different sense experiences, and that's it. And everything else is just delusion of thought. And if you then kind of get up off of the mat and you put on your normal walking life, then you walk around going through emotion and going through story and going through the identification of a person who has had this whole life and these interactions with family members and all of that. But you can also still live from that other place at the same time, recognizing that, okay, I'm playing a character. This is not real. It might feel real at times, but you also know that there's another way to experience life from a completely different standpoint, where none of that is true. All that's there is sensation being experienced by sensation. And so for the time being, you can kind of go back and forth and recognize that that's a way station. It's a reprieve, where it can start to dissolve the importance and the identification with the other stories that you're living throughout the day. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah, I have to be honest. I think I will have to hear the rerun of the recording to sort of focus on it.
What was going on? Sorry.
Yeah, no,
what was going on there when you had to take off your glasses?
I have a daughter who just came in the door. I could hear her, and she always says when I'm leaving this meeting, "Mom, you're always so sad." And I heard her, and I thought that if she walked in, I would have less tears in my eyes. Yeah, honest version.
Thank you for
I love
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I
So I also feel like I should be with her and things
Yeah.
like that. It is dinner time in Denmark and blah blah, long week. Yeah.
I would just like to repeat what Todd just said, because sometimes it helps hearing the same thing repeated by a different person. We are living in 2 lives at the same time. We're living in 2 versions of our lives at the same time. When you work with the feathers, you become very much aware that the only reality that is here, it's what you can see, what you can hear, what you can smell, what you can taste, and what you can touch. It's the only thing that is actually reality. If you ask a quantum physicist they will say that it's atoms, and the only thing that we experience those atoms is with one of our senses. That's one reality. And we know when we work with the feathers, that is the only thing that we know to be true. We also know that it's not true. It's only what we experience as a truth, as my truth. At the same time, we're living a life where you identify as a woman, you identify as somebody who has work that you enjoy, you identify as a person that grew up with an alcoholic mother, you have responsibility towards your daughter, it's now dinner time in Denmark, all of that, those two things are happening at the same time. And the more you become aware of the feathers, the more you can waltz in and out of the two. So when you realize that the identification that you're doing when you're in the Sunni suit, you know, when you are the mom making dinner, your daughter says something that really, really annoys you, you can recognize that, oh, this annoyance that I feel right now, it's only when I'm in my Sunni suit that I'm actually really, really annoyed. In reality, there's hearing happening. My daughter says something, I'm hearing a voice. The interpretation of what she's saying is annoying me. But that's not reality. That's only in the Sunni suit that is happening. So this is identification. This is non-identification. And those two lives are happening simultaneously. And what we're doing with the feathers is just making you more and more aware of when you're here, because this is where suffering is happening, and when you're here, where there's no suffering happening.
And that's not just gaslighting to say it didn't happen.
No, just with both fingers go. You got two index fingers at the same time. This index finger is going with it. No, it's about the identification. It's about becoming aware of the identification and the attachment to that identification. Because when you get annoyed or provoked, just like what Irene was just talking about, she used to be, the moment her brother wrote her anything, she would be like that. Irene, I know it's not like that. I'm just using as an example. So she would be like that immediately. That had nothing to do with the letter, with the brother, what he said or anything. It was the identification of Irene with the older brother and all the story they had had. So the attachment to that story was reacting. It wasn't the Irene suit that was reacting. It was the attachment to the story. So being in that story and seeing, oh my goodness, here we go again. I'm reacting again to something I don't know if it's true or not. Why am I reacting? There's something deeper that needs my compassion, and I have no idea what that is. I'm just going to send love and compassion out. So the moment you acknowledge that reaction is happening, and that you acknowledge that every reaction is just, a sign of reflection is needed, then you just reflect and you give love and compassion and kindness to whatever is going on. I have no idea what's going on. Love and compassion and kindness to all of it. Then you're not bypassing, because you acknowledge reaction is happening. You acknowledge that it's here, reaction is happening. It's in this meat suit, reaction is happening. And by that, you're not bypassing or gaslighting.
So when you say reaction, you mean feeling the feeling in the body, not putting a thought on it, not a reflecting thought-wise.
And whenever you do put a thought on it, and whenever you do react and yell at your daughter or get angry at your mom or overwork or overeat or whatever you do, whenever that happens, have compassion to when it happens. Because that is the first step to acknowledging that two things are happening at the same time. There's a fantasy and a delusion that is happening. When you react in that fantasy and that delusion, you can still have compassion towards what is happening. Even though you don't know the underlying story of why, you just acknowledge something is happening. I think I need a load of compassion and kindness right now. I have no idea why, but I'm reacting, so I do. By that, you acknowledge that it's something is happening over here. And when you're there sending love and compassion, you can just, take a sneak peek into this reality. what am I actually tasting right now? What am I actually seeing right now? What I'm actually hearing or smelling or feeling right now? Not emotional feeling, but physical feeling. That's why it sometimes helps, to feel your hands, to feel your knees, to feel your body. Whenever you have a reaction, get back to the sensory experience, so you get you get back to this part of you.
Okay.
And can I just throw in one little,
Yeah.
just under the base layer of everything, the only difference between those two ways of living, between that,
Meat suit.
personified meat suit and the actual just raw experience of sensations, is thought. The only thing that is a distinction between those two
Good
is
point.
that the meat suit one, there's a thought which believes in other thoughts, and in the one that's experiencing sensation, there isn't. That is literally the only difference. It's not
Good
that there's
point.
like, thank you. It's not that there's like this, unique Sunni soul self that's here and then has to like be sucked away into a void for the other one to be there. It's literally just a thought that is saying all of these stories are true, all of these stories are true, and then another one that just goes, ah, and then all the stories are true again, all the stories are true again, and then and that's it. It's just belief in thoughts that keeps the other one going.
That's actually a really, really good way of saying it.
Thank you.
That's really, really good way of saying it. Because that was what we did in the beginning with the meditation, of noticing the sensory experience, what is actually happening, and how much is thought overlay of what is happening. Really good way of saying that.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Then it is Timo, my friend. Hey, so good to see you.
Hey. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I made some notes of what I could talk about. I think I'd like to just, I mean, I could just like sit here and just talk what comes on the spot, but I think I'm like trying to somehow distill what's going on in my life and with my spirituality, and I made some notes regarding that. Something I think I've noticed is that I remember I used to have this pattern some time back. I would for example just meditate or just be, meditate in whatever I do in everyday life, and I would notice that my attention would just go somewhere, start to follow thoughts, and I would just catch myself just going after those thoughts, and I'd judge myself. I would like be like, oh yeah, like feel bad for that or so on. And I think I've recently realized that that's just another game, of the thoughts of the ego. And I no longer do that. Like I noticed that something happened, I went somewhere, and then I just return here, and that's it. Like I don't feel like I put any weight on that anymore. It doesn't feel positive or negative to me anymore. I just don't care so much of a lot of thoughts anymore, and that's a big thing to say, because I have like it's been sort of a personal hell for me, especially with relationships, feeling that someone is neglecting me, not responding to my messages, or just thinking back to how I communicated, how I wrote. I still do that. If there is something that sort of touches me, some kind of a exchange by email, let's say, I know that when I'm like kind of like expecting for the reply, I will be going in my mind through like word by word what I wrote. I still do that, but I think it's not as severe anymore. But it has really been something that has been, I'd say, crippling, just in so many different ways for me.
Mm.
Yeah. And another realization I think I've had is how pretty much you could say everything I've done in my life has been in effort to be something, to achieve something. Like I've done like albums, music, very what's the word? You know, I've tried to achieve great things with that and put so much effort into it, and then ultimately when I've been done with a project, just felt so hollow and betrayed and just so like it was not what I was after. I didn't get the thing, you know. I didn't get approval from my parents or whatever you call it. And I've come to a point where I just don't feel like doing anything right now. I've just let those things drop because I've went back to it so many times. I've tried again. Okay, so this is me, you know. I need to create art, but then I just end up hurting myself, and then I just like drop it and go back to laying on the couch or playing games or whatever diversion. Just being however I happen to be, not trying to achieve anything because I just keep hurting myself.
Well, you're touching on such a relevant issue, and it's when we are hurt and when we are reacting from a starting point that is unhealthy, then we believe that the only thing we can do is doing or not doing. You know, I can create art to get all the, you know, admiration and appreciation and response that I need. And when I'm not getting that, the only solution is not to create art. And the starting point in that is, you know, I'm not okay the way that I am. I need to feel that I'm okay. So therefore I'm creating all this art. I'm not getting the approval that I need. So now I'm not creating all this art. That's the starting point of it. And we're really becoming aware of that and the underlying need for approval, where that is pointing at, it's obviously you becoming aware of the approval, that urge to be approved. It's not from an external source. Whenever we do that either or thing, it's always when we have projected something into the external. And it's not at all where you need the approval to come from. Mm-hmm. It's not at all where, and even if you get the approval, even if the entire world see your art and say you're wonderful and you're magnificent and you're insightful and you're all of that, you will still feel hollow because it was not exactly what you needed. You know, what you needed is from an internal source.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that.
And it's I'm not saying that you should do art or not do art. I'm just pointing at how would it be if you have a different starting point. If you have a starting point of no matter what type of art you make, the process of making it is the reward. The process of creating is the reward in itself. How other people are receiving it is beside the point because you already had the payout. when I'm making my material, making the lessons, I'm making sure that while I'm doing it, I'm getting the full payout. I'm saying what I need to hear. Since everything we do is always about ourselves. So I'm expressing what I want to express, what I need to hear when I'm talking about the third or the fifth or whatever Fed I'm talking about. And the payout has fully happened when I finish the recording. All the payout has happened. Everything that I wanted to tell myself and I wanted to be said and to emphasize has happened. The payout has happened. So how people respond to it or react to it, how they use it or do not use it, it's completely irrelevant, because the payout has happened, if I can say it like that. Obviously, I'm thrilled and happy when somebody can use what I'm saying into their inquiry and into reaching a point of their insight and enjoying, like, seeing Irene and hearing Irene the way that she talks about it. It makes me so thrilled and so happy. But my contentment, it's not dependent on anyone on the outside seeing and acknowledging what I'm doing. And it's the same with your art. If your art is coming from a space of full contentment while it's happening, you set people free to like it or not like it, because you are free to enjoy it or not enjoy it. And it's also, you can talk about that for length. Actually, do you want to say something about it? Because you have had that with your music.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been nodding my head, wildly, because I recognize everything you're saying. I also am a musician and went through a lot of this where so much of it comes down to your motivation for doing it. So with me, I found, after going through the, seeing through self and all of that stuff, a lot of the motivation to make music actually went away, because so much of that was actually bound into self, ego gratification stuff and really looking for those external accolades. And the more of that has kind of fallen away, the less interest there is in doing a lot. Sorry. Sorry. I tend to gesture with my hands, and I was like going to gesture on the table, which is holding the computer, and that makes for a very wobbly camera. So sorry about that. But what I found is that now and then, the urge to just pick up an instrument and start to play is there. And it doesn't matter whether I record it or anybody else hears it. It's just like, oh, there's just a joy of playing music and hearing music. And that's lovely. But it doesn't need anything, as you said, it doesn't need anything else to be attached to that. So if your motivation for making music is really that you just love making music, like you said, then that's wonderful. There's nothing that needs to be tied into that. You don't need to stop doing that or anything else. It's only the ones that have the attachment. If there's something there that you're doing it for that purpose of getting something from it. And as you said, and as you Timo acknowledged, that even when you do get praise and accolades for it, it never feels right. It's always like, yeah, but, or it doesn't quite scratch the itch. It doesn't fill that hole that needs to be filled, because that's not what you're looking for. So I completely understand that. And it's a very common thing as people start to go through this, to start to lose motivation, and they don't know whether it's, depression or nihilism, or they're losing their motivation in life, or if it's just that, they realize that the things that they were doing to get that ego gratification are no longer useful or necessary, and that they didn't really enjoy doing the things that they were doing. So then you just stop doing it.
Yeah, I think it just comes with these things, these identities falling away, and then you start to, like what I talked about in the beginning, like it's like there's almost nothing left all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You realize that it's just been these phantoms you've been chasing, and perhaps a lot of that is sort of false, and at very least the way I've been doing things, for example music, is just something that I actually don't want to do, or like that is not
Exactly.
like something real, and something coming from just the pure joy of here and now, engaging in the activity.
It's also looking into why we chose to do what we did to begin with. Because if you started to create music because mom and dad really truly appreciated little Timo when he did that, then you continue to create music to get the appreciation. And when you then become older and more wise, and you appreciate you in different ways, then you don't need to do that anymore. I have had so many people as clients that came to me at a crossroad in their lives, and so many of them, I mean, remember one, she was a CEO of a billion-dollar company, and like really, and she was just so tired of her life. And during the process that she had, I think it was over 6 months or something like that, she found out that she actually didn't want to be CEO anymore. She wanted to be an organic farmer. And she's always wanted to be an organic farmer, but she couldn't get the appreciation and all of that, people appreciating her and thinking she was amazing if she was an organic farmer. So she became that jet setting CEO, world traveling, all of that, for something completely different than actually liking the job. I had another one, she became an accountant because it was, at that point, it was the most difficult study to get into in Denmark. We have a different system in Denmark in studying, because everything is paid. So she chose deliberately the study that was the most complicated. And then during the process that she was in, she found out that there was the only reason why she wanted to become an accountant. It was for her parents to say that, such a good girl, we really appreciate you. And obviously that never happened. So when she didn't need that approval anymore, she then became, a detox cake baker. So it's really finding out, why are you creating music? Why are you creating your art? What is it in you that is being expressed? What part of Timo is being expressed through your art? And why are you doing it? What is it? Is it scratching that itch that you have? And if it is, then you get the full payout while you make it. And there's nobody on the outside that ever needs to hear it, because it's something you do for you. If other people get to hear it, they can think of the music whatever they want. It's got nothing to do with it, because you have already received.
And is there identification as a musician? Because, that's a cool thing, right? Like, we want to be people. What do you do? Oh, I'm a musician. Oh, that's cool. It's like that kind of thing. Well, I think that's why, because like looking back, well, like you just said, right? Like looking back, like I started playing guitar, like really playing guitar when I was 13. And of course, it's like I idolized all of the, Slash and all these guys who like, oh, they look so cool playing, and like, all the girls like them. It's like that kind of thing. And it's like, as a 13-year-old,
did you start to like his house to get girls?
Not like, again, it's like one of those like under the surface things, right? It wasn't like a conscious decision, but I think there's that like, well, people really like me if I start to play guitar. I think that is like underneath the surface of it. And actually, it was funny too. This is not about you anymore, Timo. This is about me. Thank you for just joining in. When you said about that initial like gratification from the parents thing,
Yeah.
I actually found a cassette from when I was 5 years old. I just found it last year. I had no idea I had it. And I was singing and playing piano, not well, but playing piano. and my family, it was at Christmas when I was 5, and the family's like, yeah, and apparently, and I completely forgot I did this, but I used to like make up songs, and it would be like just random songs that I would start saying about a topic. And my mom was on the recording saying like, do the song about rock and roll or whatever. And it was like, I would just like do this whole like improvised thing about it. And so of course, like I was
you pick university and become a composer.
Exactly. So it's, for instance, the time when I was pre-5, when I was getting adulation for
that
yeah.
decided that you wanted
Yeah.
to take music school and become a composer.
Exactly. So
Well,
thank you for that. So anyway, back to you.
Timo, you're now included in conversation again.
But back to you. But this whole thing about the identity that we put around these selves, because it's so hard when you're giving up $1 billion CEO job or something else, because we have all this ego identification built into I am a CEO, I'm a musician, I'm whatever the identification is. And then is there a fear for you in losing that well, if I'm no longer doing this, now what am I?
Yeah, but like I think I'm at a point where none of that has any value. Like I've like many times considered just destroying all my data, for example, just all the project files of whatever music I've done, or deleting everything off internet, everything I've released, because it's just meaningless at this point.
But also recognize that that's an unnecessary overreaction. That's like
Yeah, probably there is this drama as well.
Exactly.
And like I was considering that seriously like 6 months ago. I was like writing this farewell message. I was just this bitter thing of like I didn't get what I was after.
But that is brilliant, because it's still identification. You're still in the either or, okay, so now I do not care. Now notice how much I do not care. I'm going to delete everything. That is how much I do not care. I mean, if you truly do not care, you don't need to do anything about it.
Yeah. I think I've just sometimes felt that I need to sort of forcibly just like burn the bridge. Like I'm not this anymore and I need to be something else. But then again, I don't have any other recourse. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want for most part.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize again that it's like those teenage girls that ignore one another to show how much they do not care. And in that ignoring, they're showing how much they actually care. As long as you need to burn bridges and you need to really emphasize how much you do not do that anymore, you're so doing it. The moment that is just like, oh my goodness, I have a YouTube channel with lots of music, I completely forgot about that. There's been like 3 months where I haven't even thought about it. That is when you have truly let go of it. So be aware of that either or. There is a middle way where there's no attachment to either side, and where being in the middle way is not attached to any of the two sides being in a certain way.
It's kind of like going from being like a really hardcore evangelical Christian to being a really hardcore radical atheist. It's like, okay, I've given it up, but then you're still attached to the identification of it's just as much religiosity in that as there was in the other one. You've just taken an opposite stance.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So I just called you a teenage girl, and Todd just called you a religious fanatic. I mean, you're going away with a lot today.
Oh, thank you.
Aren't you glad you came?
I am now blessed.
Now I'm really curious to hear how this is taking you. What would happen if you're just in that space of, because there's also that part of the nihilism with it,
Yeah, a lot of that apathy.
Yeah. And to me, I just see a repetition of that, all what you talked about previously, all those periods with depression, that depression is so nihilistic.
And that whole nihilism is still, it's exactly the same thing as that reverse religious fanaticism, where you have the drive for meaning most of the time, and then you fall into that nihilism, which is the anti-meaning, but it's from exactly that standpoint that meaning has a purpose, that you still need life to have a purpose, whether it's that it has a meaning or it has no meaning. They're still opposites to the same coin. Exactly.
Point.
So Yeah,
So
so
you are kind of like being passionate still about life, but in a different way. Yeah.
With the minus in front.
Very involved. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
with a minus in
With a
front of it,
minus in
yeah,
front of
I
it.
like
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very curious to how it is to be Timo, where without the attachment to either or, you know, but just in that a bit like what we talked with Suni about, noticing how much is the Timo suit and all the identification with it, and how much is the other part where it's just being. So when you create music, like Todd was talking about, it's just sitting with your instruments and experiencing the sound and the feeling in the fingers and the
yeah, just the joy of hearing new sounds come out. That's wonderful. But if there's anything else attached to that, like I should be recording this now, or you know, whatever, then you recognize that there's something else more to it. And if you don't want to do it anymore, then that's fine. And recognize that you don't have to do something for that other purpose.
Mm.
It's
to be
yeah,
acknowledged as a citizen of the planet.
yeah. And it's okay to not know, you know, we have this thing like by the time you're in high school, you should know what you want to do with your life. And by the time you're out of high school or out of college, or whatever, you damn well better know what you're doing with your life. And if at any point after that, you decide that it's time to make a change or this isn't working, that's very scary. So I understand that, you know, inherent fear of what am I, what do I do if I don't do this thing, now what? And there's a, instead of seeing it as this, you know, scary vacant opening that you don't know what it is, look at it as this, you know, fecund, fruitful possibility. Like it's just this open path that it could be anything. You know, it just hasn't formed yet. And so be open to whatever does seem to be a really potent you know, source of bliss, or you know, that's kind of the Joseph Campbell way of saying, you know, follow your bliss. But it's like whatever it is that feels really good to you without the additional need for having it be for having it be serving some ulterior motive for you.
Yeah, it's just that most of the time nothing much feels like anything. So
That sounds very much like the anhedonia, the you know, depressive sort of nihilism.
yeah, I know that place.
Yeah, and that's,
But it's also, it's very homely, you know, it's not disturbing. It's so familiar, perhaps a bit too familiar. So
yeah,
it's like sometimes somebody asks me how I'm doing, and I just say, you know, just same old, being depressed, and they might feel sorry for me, but then I'm like, no, don't. It's normal for me, you know, like for somebody who has not been depressed so much of their life, they don't realize how normal it can be. It's not some crisis that's happening.
But then is it being depressed, or is it just being you?
What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly, because if it is being depressed, that means that there's also a non-depressed Timo that you can strive to be. But if this is just, I mean, Todd is super neurotic, and I don't think that he's super neurotic. I just think he's Todd. So what if the Timo is not the depressed Timo, but this is just Timo? This is just,
yeah. So you are kind of, perhaps I interpret saying, why label it? You know, that's just what it is.
but you're putting a label on it that might be, you know,
Yeah,
the way that bodysuit is viewing the world, it's through, you know, Charlie Brown filter.
it's a good filter.
You know.
yeah. I think a lot of times I may not even do that. Just saying, you know, life, to the question of how I'm doing, it's just, you know, ups and downs. It's just usual. You know, like I don't a lot of times feel like saying anything specific, because it doesn't appear like that to me. The details don't usually matter so much.
I think think the real question is, does your sort of baseline way of living, that baseline, what we call a depressive filter, does that do you want or need that to change? Is there something, the word is keeps slipping away from me. Like, is it dysfunctional for you? Is there something where you feel like it's really creating difficulties in your life?
No, that's like saying water is making difficulties for a fish. No, it's you know, it's me, it's what my reality, how it happens here and now. And I think I used to feel or think like that some years back, but at some point I just gave up. I am powerless to do anything about it. It's my reality, it's my path, my life, and perhaps someday it changes, perhaps it doesn't, but I don't feel I need to or I can do anything about it.
Still hear duality.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean when I say that I still hear a duality, that it's still like there's a Timo that is, but Timo accepts that it is as it is. But there's also an improved version of Timo that potentially could happen, but it's not happening right now. There's like a non-acceptance of.
Yeah, it's like a half acceptance.
Yeah. It's super interesting. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I feel quite divided a lot of times. Like at one level, at some moments, I can see, you know, and know a lot, but then other times yeah, like sort of between worlds.
Yeah.
I'm thinking so many things at the same time.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. If you're in a place like what we were talking about in the meditation to begin with, when you're in that sort of thoughtless space where, like I was talking about with Suni, where it's like, you know, you have the sort of meat suit identification and then the just raw direct experience. If you're in that just raw direct experience, does depression exist? And is there does that sort of thing that we take to be the depressive Timo, is that still in existence?
Well, it depends on what you take as the depressed state. This may be something we talked about last week, but something I've come to realize is that a lot of times when I feel a certain way physically, like I wake up in the morning and I feel groggy and my body aches and so on, then a lot of my life I have thought, you know, that is it, you know, like I'm old and I'm depressed and just always feeling like this, and you know, how can I do anything in life and so on. But I think that has grown weaker, that sort of association, that it doesn't really need to mean anything, or I don't need to label it. So that's something that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
And notice that every aspect of that, though, is a thought. The actual raw experience of it isn't even being tired or groggy. That's still in comparison to some other state that you're remembering.
Yeah.
Actual raw experience in any given situation is just the raw experience. And if you're putting on those labels, and especially those, okay, well, I'm groggy and I feel and I ache. Okay, that is in comparison to, I remember when I was young and vital and felt so good and had so much energy. So now, oh, this is the way it's always going to be. I'm over the hill and all that. Every bit of that is just another thought that's being believed, right? So let all of that get sort of peeled off and fly into the wind and just keep coming back to the actual raw experience. And in that moment of just raw, direct experience, what are the hallmarks of what we're considering to be depression, or even just a quote unquote depressed way of life, or, just that being your daily thing? What in that direct experience can be felt that gives you that impression that there is perennial depression? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, well, like, I think obviously there is nothing to that effect with just a raw sensation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because when you, like Todd said, it was what I was trying to explain before. That when you wake up and you have a feeling of ache, you don't even know that you have a feeling of ache if you're not comparing it with anything. It's like you just said that when people ask you how you're doing and you have that feeling, well, there's no difference whatsoever, then that is not the depressive Timo. It's just how it is right now. And it can't even be explained. I love when the best thing you can do to annoy Vince, who has the Sunday meetings, it's ask him, how are you doing? It's the biggest annoyance you can ask him. He goes into a complete tantrum when you do that, because you cannot answer the question. You cannot answer the question because there's no comparison with anything. There's just an expression. How are you doing? I feel my foot under Todd's leg. That's the answer. I feel his hair on my fingers. Now I feel my heartbeat and my breathing. There's no answer to the question when people ask you how you're doing, because we have to go into a comparison space or state.
Yeah, it's like right away sort of a challenge that I want to engage in the human trauma with you. Let's start to throw the ball back and forth.
That's such a good way to put that.
I love that. Yeah.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love for you, until we meet again, to have that completely raw experience of everything, where there's not a label saying that you are something, depressed or musician or hungry or tired or aching. That label is off, and it's just in the moment experiencing what is happening right now, and seeing how little you can actually describe what is experiencing if you're not adding a thought to it.
And that's where freedom is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you're just suggesting this as a sort of a theme to pay attention to, or might there be, some practical steps?
Yes. Every time you have a thought about depressed Timo, or wanting to, I can't make music anymore, or anything like that, ask yourself the question, are you sure? Because whenever you have a thought about something being in a certain way, it's just a thought. It's not reality. And so questioning everything.
And then come back to the body immediately and feel in your direct experience, what is it right now that feels like depression? What is it that feels right now like a Timo who has to delete all of, all of the music
ever
and
made?
everything?
Yeah.
Like, what is it in that moment that is actually giving any of that, any sort of validation of truth, or, any indication that this has to be here, or I have to do this thing, other than a thought? What else is actually there in that experience?
Yeah.
And do you have to trust that thought? Is that thought real?
Exactly. Are you sure?
Exactly.
I need to delete all this to be free. Are you sure? I'm achy today. Are you sure? You can't be achy today, unless you're comparing to a day where you weren't. So what is actually your experience right now?
So something that's like, I wonder about this sort of questioning, like asking, "Are you sure?" Because that's another thought,
Yes.
you know. So I start to, you know, I might start to sort of wrestle with, you know. So like, I think what I'm wondering about is why not simply draw the attention to the body? Is it a good idea to start to play that game? You
No.
know?
And
Yeah.
don't, if you do the "are you sure," just don't answer it. It's not asking for a verbal answer. Like I used to use a similar one. Just anytime that I recognized I was lost in thought, I would just say, "Is this happening right now?"
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, right, I'm having a conversation with somebody 5 hours from now, or, you know, going over the email that you wrote 3 weeks ago or whatever it is. Like, is this happening right now? Oh, no, the person is not here. The email is not here. None of what has been going on that seemed so pressing in the mind is here right now. And it just snaps you out of it. And so you don't have to say, no,
No,
it's not actually, I'm doing, you know, you don't have to answer it. It's just a thing to wake you up and make you question that that's not actually a true thing that you've been lost.
Okay.
Yeah, no, goodness. Do not create a new story or a new concept on top, or a new belief on top of the belief that you're just trying to dissolve.
Yeah.
That wouldn't do anything.
Yeah. Tricky.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I'm looking forward to hearing that. Yeah.
We'll see.
Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Let me just see. Pin, and there's Debbie. Hello, good to see you.
Hello. Oh,
Oh,
you're there. You go.
muted. Oh,
still
you're
muted.
still muted.
Sorry, I was just so excited to get you in speaker view. That's all I could think. I want to see you guys big.
Good job.
I just want, all I want to do is just before it got too late, I want to put my hand up and claim my seat. I've been kind of lurking for a few weeks, and I haven't done a ton of fed work, but I did get a guide at LU, and I just want to be more active. So just like force myself out there and not, question, what the right thing to do is. And there's all those less than thoughts you think when you think people are ahead of you and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
So that's all. Well, thank you, everybody, because when I just focus on what you're saying and stuff, I can feel it. I can resonate with a lot of stuff there's something from everybody that I can definitely resonate with, and then the guidance as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, good. I'm so
Yeah.
happy. Yeah, I'm so happy. And then also we have to do the sofa set about the wheel.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we really do.
What we talked about previously, that we want to dissolve the idea of the linearity of the feathers, but instead look at it, like a pie chart where you have like 10 small pies.
Yeah, check this box. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not like that. It's not going like anybody can't be ahead of you or behind you. It's not how it works. It's just where are you realizing where are you identifying right now, and what is the best way of supporting and helping you in the process of de-identifying right now. It's all it is.
Yeah, that's helpful, because question do I belong, or should I say anything I haven't seen through self or whatever, so yeah. So thanks, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm happy to see you here. So
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just have a question. So you got a guy on LU. Are you doing the curriculum?
I worked a little bit with one, but I haven't like the way you talk about it, I have to really do all the videos in one, and I don't think I can just do it just once. And so, and speaking of neuroses, you know what I mean? I'm trying to do it the right way, so, I worry about everything. I mean, hand up, hand down. I don't know. Is it purer to keep the hand down and just be the other people, and, crazy, insane, nuts.
No. I'm so happy that you put your hand up and that you are saying this, because you're not the only one who feel like that. And for you just to say this is how it is right now, it's beautiful. I'm so happy you do that. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
I feel the acceptance. Yeah.
Absolutely. Also acceptance. Absolutely. Okay, how to move it here is to that. Doot.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Oh, Lisa's here. And Liz, amazing. And Nicole, good to see you. Hi, Liz. Not in the car. Good to see you.
You can hear me when I say something.
Oh,
Oh,
you really
your,
are-
your audio is really chopping up. It's better in the car, I think. Okay. Is there anything else? Anything we can help with?
Hi.
Oh, Jahira, yay. Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
Long time
I'm
no-
so proud of you, Debbie, for talking. I just wanted to say that, like, I also started with LU and got a guide, and then, but I think what helped was when I actually spoke to people on the calls and actually engaged and had somebody talk to me directly, because yeah, there was just something more powerful about that than just the guide on LU. So awesome for speaking, and like even after having the glimpse and seeing through self, I still feel like, oh, like, you know, like there's no guarantee that like something is gonna go away, or, you know, oh, then I won't be nervous anymore. It's not like that. It's just more, and now I just feel I can say like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm going to talk now, but I feel nervous, you know, just like what Pernille was saying, how when somebody asks you how you're doing, you can just say, what's here? Oh, this is what's here. Here's what's here. So there's that. And then, so Todd, I've been working with Christiane.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to work with you, but you're too busy for me. Just kidding. I know it didn't quite work out with our schedules, but so looking at 4 or 5 with Christiane, and I don't know if you heard on the Feder call when I talked about working with the sentence about what my dad said when I was a child.
No, I
And
asked a couple ones. So you
okay, because I know this is kind of like a reoccurring thing since I've met you guys. So the sentence that she had me work with was, my dad didn't say, sweetie, get your fingers out of your mouth. Because what actually happened was he was very harsh. I felt completely devastated by how worthless I felt when he was so harsh when I was a child, because I kept putting my fingers in my mouth, and you know, he's just trying to help me not get sick, whatever, but he said it in a certain way. And so I was using that sentence. And so I was doing that every day. And then every time I did it, the reaction, because the reaction at first was, you know, that was the reaction in the beginning when I would think of how my father didn't say, sweetie, get your fingers out of your mouth, because that's what I wanted instead of what did happen. So over a few days, it went from sobbing, crying when I intoned the sentence to just certain little sensations like a wince in the face, and then finally nothing, no reaction. So then she said, try to intone the sentence the other way now. What did he say? So I worked with that. Like my father he said, get your fingers out of your mouth, I told you, you know, like that. So then even like the first couple of times I would intone that sentence, and there was some crying, but then again, days later, this is doing it like, you know, for 5 minutes, 3 times a day. A couple days later, I couldn't remember what he said. I couldn't, like when I would sit there to do the sentence, I'd be like, wait, what did he say? How did it happen? What was it like? Like I couldn't remember it anymore. So then I was, you know, I told her I couldn't remember, and that it was kind of just, now it was just the gap. It was just it was just silence, and there was no even looking to see what would cross me over, because I couldn't even remember what that was. So I was looking for kind of other things to bring back to the lab. But of course, the more you look for the reactions that happen, now you're on the lookout. So now they don't come because now you're like waiting for something, right, to react to. And some of them would start, like I would become annoyed with my daughter, but it'd be just like, oh, wait, here it is. Something's happening. Okay. And then it would just go away. You know what I mean? Like nothing would happen. So then I talked about, oh, there was something that did happen on the Fetters call that my daughter, I was playing dolls with her and she said, you're doing it all wrong, Mama. You can't do anything right. You're doing it all wrong. You're doing it wrong. And something strong was there, you know, like I was so upset that she said that. And, you know, I was able to kind of stay with it without reacting at first, but then something, of course, pulled me to say something to her later. But so I guess my point is when I talked to Christiane too, like she said that there's still something there that says that the starting point is you're wrong.
Absolutely.
Like you're gonna do it wrong. And like, you know, there's the theme with my kids and like wanting to do it right. You guys know, like constantly like not wanting to do what was done to me to them. And like, so she suggested that instead of just like kind of noticing the sensations, she said I should actually label them. Like, what's this sensation like? Like, so for example, my kids were earlier, they were arguing over something. And instead of just noticing like what's here, sensation wise, it's like, oh, like I'm feeling frustrated. This is frustration. Or this is uncertainty. Like I don't know how to fix this for them. Like they were arguing over something. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just sharing what's happening. I don't really have a question, but it's just there's something helpful now about putting the label back on as opposed to before, just like, oh, it's here. Now it's like, I'm not putting a story to it, but there is something healing about like, oh, this is here. This is the sensation. Like you guys were talking about wheels, and she recommended the emotion wheel, where it has all the different emotions in it, and then the smaller wheel where, you know, the center is like the main angry, sadness, anger, happiness. But so yeah, that's what's going on. And yeah, everything is lovely and everything's just going.
Good.
I love it so much. Yeah, I
I'm
love
so
it
glad to
so
hear
much.
that.
I love how you're just, you know, allowing what is to be there. And whenever something comes up which you deem as not okay and you don't want the reaction, then you're just, instead of going into that reaction towards the reaction, you're just staying with the reaction. You're just staying with that. And yeah, I really, really
Yeah, because I think there was something that I was doing there that I was saying I shouldn't react.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think there's something to that too, that like she's like, no, we're not trying to say you're not supposed to react.
No.
Nope.
It's because
Yeah.
we have a resistance, right? And the whole job is in just staying with that resistance, not having a resistance to the resistance. And that is what we do when we start to divert, right? There's a resistance happening. I feel vulnerable. So I feel a resistance to being vulnerable.
Oh, I shouldn't be yeah, right.
Then we are case for diverting so we're resisting the resistance, and then we're completely
Yeah, and then it just goes back to that. I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And how can you know?
Right.
So just staying with the resistance is just beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
I kind of had one other follow-up question. I'm
Go
sorry.
on.
I was just curious, when you put the labels back on, what do you find it do you get something from that? I mean, I understand
Yeah.
that you have that, but how does that how have you found that to be beneficial?
I don't know what it is. Like because I was just doing just the sensations, like, oh, it's tightness, it's here. But there's something like, I don't know, maybe there's just something, it feels like more clarity, like, ah, like, or maybe it does have to, it's connected somehow to, maybe it's connected to me thinking I'm doing it wrong, because when I am able to say, oh, I'm uncertain, like, I don't know how to help them right now, this is uncertainty. There's something like, I don't know, healing about, like, here's uncertainty and I don't know. And it's okay, I don't know. Like, I'm feeling uncertain. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I can't do it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, there's just something, it's like clarity. There's some kind of clarity there.
Yeah, I wondered if it gave you that so that you could feel it more readily, that like,
Yeah.
okay, this is that again, and this connects to that fundamental. Okay, well, yeah, that's just that again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just that again. So it gives you that kind of
Confirmation or something, or
like
that sounds,
that like, okay, well, that's just frustration again. I've seen that before, and I remember that it ties into my lack of being able to do.
yeah, it's something like that. It's something like that. It's like it gives me, it's clearer. It's like the sensation is clearer somehow with the label on it, you know? I mean, and I guess that's okay, because you think, oh, label thought, but not necessarily.
Well, it's handy, like, because it can be handy both. I think there are benefits to both sides of it. Like, when we start off, we tend to just feel things from that standpoint. So it's like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, not recognizing what that actually is. It's just taken to be the label. So we strip. Then you come down to, oh, well, what am I actually feeling? Oh, there's tension in my throat. There's, something here or there. Then we find out what it is that we're actually using that label to label. Now you've gotten to where you've recognized that you can sit with these things, you can feel the emotions, or feel the sensations, I should say, that are connected with these labels of the emotions. See what they have to bring you. You have these kind of cathartic, crying moments that you wouldn't get if you had just kept it at the label of feeling frustrated, feeling sad about, something, and then not going into it. So there's a benefit to going deeper underneath that to get to that feeling that has been locked in there and not felt.
Yeah.
But then I think now it's like, I guess, so two things. So I find I do think it's probably helpful for you to recognize in your daily life that, okay, this is yet another place where I don't know, and I'm uncertain about something, and I feel like that's connecting to my not knowing or not being able to do things right or wrong, or whatever that baseline, or that base, starting point is. So it's useful for that. The one place that I would caution, though, is to not start making that into another narrative that you get identified with. Another, oh, I'm frustrated, and then just play it off as, yep, that's me. I have a prone to frustration.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like that.
I have a starting point. That's just the thing. And then don't just bypass it by making that into just some other little identification nugget or.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I only connected it that way because you asked me to look at it deeper, but in the moments, it's very like coming, go, coming, and then go. And I think it is like that. It's like this, first I had to zoom way in, now kind of zooming out. It feels like that, right? With the whole emotion thing. But yes, there's not a long dialogue story coming that's identifying. It's just like, oh, there it is. And then feel it. Oh, there. And it's like very fluid.
But also keeping in mind that when it comes up and when you react, it's because it's pointing at something that needs space and compassion and love and kindness. So it's not, the job is not done by saying, I am now reacting, I'm now saying with my reaction, and now the job is done, because it's still pointing. It's pointing at something in you that has not, been met, and that has not been loved, and it's not profound, and it's not, it's pointing at that still. And that's why it still, pushes a button in you, because there's still a button to be pushed. That there's still something that needs love and compassion. It's not the goal is not to be completely okay with everything. The goal is to love what the body hasn't felt was loved.
Right. And that's what Christiane said. Even give yourself the okay to feel these different emotions.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she said.
And
yeah.
look at where it's pointing, because it's not the emotion that's the emotion is just pointing. You know, it's like if I'm pointing at the moon, you can't look at the finger. You need to look at what I'm pointing at. And it's the same with the emotion. The emotion comes up. It's not for us to talk about the emotion. It's to feel into what it's pointing at.
Yes.
Because the end goal is not the emotion. It's just, the emotion is just pointing.
Yeah.
And if you can't see what it's pointing at, then just throw love, compassion, and space out there, because it's something that needs love, compassion, and space.
Well, that's the thing. It's pointing at, you're doing it wrong.
Mm.
It's pointing at that. And so
it's pointing to a feeling of not being okay as you are.
It's funny you say that, because Christiane was asking me that. She asked me, because she said, do you like yourself? Or something like that. And I couldn't answer, because it's like, what do you mean? Like, oh, who am I to like? I couldn't like, but I mean, overall, you know, I think so. Yeah, I think, yeah, you know, I don't have, you know, a lot of thoughts about being critical about myself anymore since having the glimpse. But there is the thing with my kids and doing it right with them. There's that still. So,
and it's still Jaheda doing something wrong when she was 5.
right. Yeah.
It's still that you did something wrong then. So there's a big scar in you that needs love, even when you're doing things wrong, that you can hold the space of you doing something wrong. So now you have your kids to remind you that there's still a scar about doing something wrong. And can you still hold space for doing something wrong? It was also what I was pointing out at the first time we talked about it, where I said that, of course, you do things wrong. Your kids will end up in therapy, because all healthy kids end up in therapy. You are doing it wrong. No matter how much love you give them, then they will go into therapy because you were hovering and helicoptering them and they didn't have enough freedom. And if you're giving them freedom, then they will go into therapy because you didn't give them, you know,
They were neglected.
They were neglected. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you do it. Healthy kids end up in therapy. So you are going to do it wrong. Can you create space for that? Then no matter what you do right now, and you're sure this is the best thing to do for my kids, it's still wrong. And that's where the not knowing comes into it. Because
yeah, but that's the thing. You're saying wrong, but it's also like, I can't know. It's more like I can't know.
It's right for you right now when you do it. You know, insisting that the kids need to be in bed by 7. I'm just making stuff up now. Insisting that the kids need to be in bed by 7 because that's healthy. It's a healthy habit. They should be in bed by 7. That feels right for you when you insist on that being true. But they will end up in therapy by not having autonomy and deciding when they could go to bed. It doesn't change the fact that when you insisted on it, it felt right. I'm just saying it can't be right because it's just opinion.
Okay, that doesn't mean it's wrong or right. That's right, because it's like, just you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's an opinion. It can't be right because it's just an opinion.
And there's really no way to know the outcome of anything until you see the outcome of anything.
And you will end up apologizing to your kids anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what a good parent does.
And recognize that right and wrong, sorry.
Yeah, the unknown is scary. I always start to feel scared.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wanting to do something right is, as you just acknowledged, it's because you're afraid of the outcome. And we only determine whether something is right or wrong based on the outcome of it. And like I just said, the outcome, we don't know it until after it happens, often long down the road, because we don't even know. We can stop arbitrarily at any point and say, well, I did the right thing because my kids woke up the next morning and got a good night's sleep, so I did the right thing. But you don't know.
Right.
Any number of bad things that happened because they went to bed at 7 o'clock and got a good night's sleep, that, that might not be the final arbiter of whether that decision was right or wrong or good or bad.
Yeah, and that's why the wheel works so well too, because even though I had that glimpse and I could see, like it was like what Debbie was saying, how like I used to always analyze it, gotta get it right, your mind just thinks you can choose the right thing, but like you can't fucking know. Like, so even though I got that glimpse, here I am, like in this kind of space, even though it's fourth fetter, it's like it's all kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
Because like even though I had that glimpse, like, holy shit, you can never know. Here I am still like.
But it's also acknowledging that for you, specifically for you, realizing that there is no right or wrong is particularly painful because you as a young girl felt that you did something wrong. And now you realize that actually, if you had your fingers in your mouth or didn't have your fingers in your mouth, it wasn't wrong or right. It was just your dad reacting to his reality, to his bubble, to his starting point. So it had nothing to do with you at all. But it's such a huge scar in you that you still can, today, as an adult woman, can cry about it because it's still so painful. And that is what needs your love and compassion. That little Jaheda, if you can, 7 feather, go back into time and stand with her when her dad is yelling at her for having her fingers into the mouth again. And then you just stand next to her and you have her back and you say, it's okay, sweetie. It's okay. You can feel all that shame that you're feeling right now. You will land on your feet. You will be a great mom. Everything is fine. So it's okay for her to have the finger in her mouth. It's okay for whatever feeling that arose in her. You got her back now. So it's particularly difficult for you because there's a particularly hurtful experience about being wrong. And that's why you can't let go of it until the healing has completely happened in your body. You're not supposed to let go of it until the healing completely has happened in your body. Because otherwise that part will never be healed.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I love you guys.
I love you so much. Love you so much. So good to see you. So good to see you.
I changed my audio. Can you hear me?
Oh, so much better.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, look at that. I changed it. I love the share that just came through, and I'm really curious about how this relates to, or not relates to, what I feel inside myself often is this anger. And so the part that is holding on to the anger. And yeah, I'm pausing to feel that. Yeah, just the part that still feels like it needs to hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever we have that feeling that I'm not ready to let go of this yet, it's because there's something in the body that has not been acknowledged, that has not been felt, and that has not been, loved for being there. Anger is just a diversion, Anger is what we were taught as children because we were never taught to have an appropriate emotional response to things. If our family was dysfunctional, then we were never taught how to have an emotional appropriate response. we were taught to react with anger because our parent didn't have the maturity to have an appropriate emotional response. They reacted with anger. So we were taught that whenever we get a feeling we don't like, we react with anger. So what you need to do is parent yourself into looking into, like Jaheira is doing, looking into what is the underlying emotion, what is it that I'm actually feeling, and really be curious to what it is you're feeling, and then seeing that now as the adult you can teach yourself what is the appropriate emotional response. What am I actually feeling? I am feeling something in me. It cannot have anything to do with the other person. It cannot be an external source. It can only ever be an internal job. I'm an adult now. I got my back. I am fully capable of loving whatever comes up. So whatever I'm feeling right now, I'm loving as well. If you can attach that to the anger. So whenever you feel anger as a response, knowing this is not anger, this is diversion. What am I diverting from? I am capable of feeling whatever is underneath, and I'm open to feeling whatever is underneath and just staying with that. Then you can actually use your anger as, pointing into what is it pointing at? Oh my goodness, it's always pointing at, I feel they do not respect me. Okay, so it's actually about respect. Okay, am I respecting me? Am I respecting them? It's not about them at all, them not respecting me. It's never ever, but it's pointing about something in you that needs your attention and your love. So if it's always a reaction to, they do not respect me, look at how you can respect yourself in this situation right now. What is it actually that needs your love and compassion regarding respect?
Yeah, it feels like the staying with the nuance of the sensation gives the charge. It feels like I'll often experience what feels so well, I'll just say how it is right now, which is just, like what I'm going to label uncomfortable, but it is just sensation. Yeah. And the part that still I can feel, it's really interesting to feel you could say like the young part that wants to just, it's wild to feel both simultaneously, right? Of like, there's the part, or I don't even know, not like it's separate, but it's almost like I can feel this magnetism toward, it's like back and forth of like what wants to go here. And it used to be, they would just like devolve into one particular thing. And in this, it's like trying to, not even trying, but having the capacity, building the capacity to be with more of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also acknowledge what we talked with Sunny about, that a lot of these things happened when we didn't have the vocabulary. We were not psychologically and emotionally mature enough to explain what it actually was that was going on in us. And then we have what you just said, uncomfortable. It just felt uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is a non-word, it's absolutely describing nothing. So be more specific. You're an adult now, use your words. What is it actually that it feels like? And then stay with that, because then you verbalize what the child couldn't verbalize. And that's what I mean with really staying with the child. Unsafe. Okay, that's a word. That's a word. And then you can stay with that feeling of unsafety.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm happy you sorted out the microphone, so we just got that little nugget there. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
I just wanted to point out what Jaheira, she talked about, that it's impossible to get a one-to-one with you.
Well, that was actually, she had wanted to get into my 4 or 5 groups, which didn't fit. And then,
I just wanted to point out there's still, if you want a one-to-one with Todd, there's still slots open. Not many, but there's still slots open. I'm gonna attach to his Calendly where you can book a one-to-one if you want to.
Thank you. Nice.
And then I also want to talk about the death inquiry that
nice.
just came up. I really would like to do a sofa set about that. He's just made the most amazing death inquiry that really comes with a huge warning sign. But it's really good because it's looking into when we fear death. It's basically all 10 feathers that are compromised into the one thing that is fear of death. So with the death inquiry, you're looking into all 10 feathers at the same time. It's really good.
Thank you.
But yeah, you need to be stable to listen to it.
Yeah. It goes because it basically undercuts, as you investigate most of the different ways that we identify and all the different ways that we self, and kind of investigate each of those. But then it also does ask you to, actually imagine, dying in a way that it provokes the fear, so that we can also investigate what the fear is and what the actual existential fear of death feels like. And if we need to,
it's really, really good. I think I listened to it 12 times by now. It's really, really good.
But you really do have to be in a sort of a stable, safe place to do that. Just, that's why it has numerous disclaimers before it, just in case.
Okay, I think that's it. Oh, Lisa, hello. Good to see you. Now Lisa is in the car. There's always somebody in the car. I love that. I think that's it. Next thing on the panel is
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday. With that, we have the inquiry where we're back on the sofa again.
Same place, different time.
Yes. Okay, I think that's it.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah,
I wanted to tell you all.
Thank you so much for being in the Q&A today.
Thank you. I'm glad I can make it today.
Yeah. So good to see all of you. So
Thanks,
good. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Leela, for helping out too.
Yeah.
Amazingly helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So helpful. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.